This story is about a dream, about the creepiest and at the same time realistic dream in my life. Look it up to the end and you will understand what I mean. And now put on your headphones and listen. You wake up from your own scream in a cold sweat and with a wild beating of the heart in your chest, about a dream hiding a distant past in which a tragedy far forgotten in memory occurred where you were an indirect participant. Just a viewer living in his rainbow world, not giving an account of his behavior. But perhaps what happens in a dream may manifest itself in reality. I was standing on the pier of the underpass. Apparently I had to go somewhere, but he did not understand where and why. He went down to the subway and stood looking at all this darkness. In the stretched minutes, I felt around only the gloomy light from the lamps. It began to reach me little by little that something was wrong with this place. I looked back, touching the space surrounding me with my gaze. Long tunnels one way and the other, hung with a black impermeable blanket. The gray of an empty perron clung to the faded rows of round columns, and the deathly silence. Suddenly caught himself thinking, maybe on an intermediate station, where all of this by me did not matter much. But the same question arose, which I do here. Maybe if I left this strange place, then not a pleasant dream ended. I would find myself in another passage of sleep, where everything did not look so bad. Heard a monotonous female voice in the loudspeaker. I did not immediately pay attention to the meaning of the voice alert, because the voice itself seemed very familiar to me. I was sure that once I heard it, but the memory was hindered by an incomprehensible metal rattle or something like that. The voice sounded as if the voice track of the robot was superimposed on it.
In 5 minutes a train will arrive. Passengers wishing to ride a request to prepare. Not make noise, not run around with a carriage. Maybe then the danger will pass you.
Did not believe his ears. What nonsense this strange dispatcher said. And here I was interested in the word passengers. The carriage was absolutely empty. Except me, there was no one on it. The voice repeated the notification for the second time after listening to the announcement of arrival. It seems that I began to understand what should be clearly visible at the end of each sentence of this threat dispatcher. My carriage arrived almost silently, but for some reason there were two cars, and the train itself did not look normal. It was similar to children's trains on rides, only enlarged to the size of modern trains. Electric train powered by electricity from the third contact rail, stuck as a wild mixture of technological innovations. Thick smoke poured from all the pipes and the cars did not shine today. But in this situation, one thing pleased, if I may say so. The order annoying twilight was diluted with the bright consecration of the wagons. Without much difficulty, I saw one huge man in the first carriage of the train, another, and two women in the second. The third time the strange voice of the dispatcher sounded and then the horn whistled. Smoke came from the second pipe. The train was out of breath. I really did not want to be alone again. Moreover, very terrible things began to happen to the perron itself. The barely visible gray spots of both exits disappeared somewhere. Blackness appeared in their place, which I thought was moving. It's like a black space hole, sucked in everything that approached. And the bright light inside the wagons beckoned. What nonsense the dispatcher would not carry. But in cars, it is safer than in the subway. Again, with caution looked into directions. The darkness thickened, moved and inexorably continued to absorb the distinguishable areas of perron. Quickly entered the second carriage, and this choice was logical. In the second there were more people. Went in and immediately sat down in the back seat. The train was more breathless. Started, accelerated and completely silently disappeared into the subway. After a couple of minutes again mentally accumulated to inconsistencies. It made me think even more. It moved so fast, but there was no draft, no airflow inside the car, and suddenly the composition turned noticeably. On this, endless surprise stopped. And when the timber door opened, two Skibidi toilets entered our carriage. At the moment when he was wary of them, the memory gave out another portion of memories. Really, I could not believe that I saw. Yes, those very Skibidi toilets, who jumped on the carriage, tried to cheer with their presence of passengers, and we all laughed together. We have grown-ups sitting in carriages with a humiliating finger on each of them, calling them offensive words. And in the midst of irrepressible fun, one of those present kicked the toilet Skibidi when he came close. The Skibidi toilet fell but immediately rose. A terrible outline of a face with a long neck appeared from the toilet, from which we began to laugh even more. The same guy kicked him even harder. Having lost his Skibidi balance, the toilet fell out of the car and fell on the stones and crashed. Then why are there two of them now? I looked carefully. Horror gripped me. One of the toilets began to mutate. A huge head with knife-sharp teeth leaned out from there when they jumped to the men sitting first in their path. Then there was a complete horror. The huge head of the toilet bit off half of his body in a split second. I tried to get out of place, but could not. I could only move my fingers and head to horror, plunging into the theater of fear and pain. The train started. The toilets jumped into the first carriage, and the legs that remained of that guy were lying. I tried to get out of the seat, but, as is usually the case in a dream when you want to run away from danger and tremble in one place. So in my case,
The next station, ice cream for wait.
I froze and tightened. The train door reopened and the toilets appeared again in the carriage. In my sleeping nightmare, I could not say anything at all, as well as move. One of them quickly became huge and jumped at me with one push.